for joining today. This is actually the last event of this year, and what a year it has been, right? So 2023, phenomenal year for generative AI and for AI overall. And to the extent that even as of yesterday, there are breakthroughs coming, there are new announcements happening, and from all parts of the world. And looks like India has also, made some significant strides, which were just announced in the last couple of weeks, right? So really a fantastic time for all of us who are in this space. And that essentially is what Satvik also wanted to kind of, cover today. What all has happened? Because just really so much has happened over this last 1 year, right? So we thought it'd be a good idea to do a quick recap of it, and post that also take a look at, what might unfold in 2024. Again, it's possibly uh, very, very difficult to accurately predict what happens, but some trends are there. Some, there are definitely some things that we do think will happen, and so that is what Satvik is going to cover. But we can be sure that we might have visibility into the next 3 months. So, the first 3 months of 2024. What happens by end of, by December 2024, if we are doing the session again, I can't imagine what kind of things would have happened there, right? So, yeah, so that's basically what we're trying to do today. Now, I'll just very quickly tell you about deep tech stars. Satvik, if you can go to the next slide, please.
Yeah.
So we are a community of AI developers, not just generative AI, but even the other forms, whether it's computer vision, NLP, ML ops, all of these kind of things. We've been doing this for almost 10 years now. So we do have one of the largest meetup groups globally, specifically for deep tech developers. Those of you who are interested in this, please feel free to join our meetup group. You can just Google for Deep Tech Stars meetup and you'll find it. It's actually kind of easier to find it through Google than to go to meetup.com and then search there. Yeah, so that's something you can do. We've been doing these meetups really to just bring the community together, to facilitate, kind of knowledge sharing. So we invite at least once a month, we try to do an event. Sometimes we do these online events like what is happening now, but a lot of times these are in-person events that we do at, companies like Microsoft, Nvidia, Google, all of these things. And we're always looking to collaborate. So if any of you want to collaborate, you kind of want to host us at your startup or anything like that, we're very happy to do things together. So, the reason why we do this also is because we just really see so much happening when people who are interested in the space come together, right? Which is why we also try to do more in-person meetups, because the connections that get formed kind of are stronger. There's a lot more serendipity that happens there, and hence, those are some of the things that we do. Now, in addition to all of this stuff, this is the community part of it that we do. But what Deep Tech Stars is really getting into now is helping companies to recruit AI developers. There's definitely a demand, and there are many, really good developers like you out there. So we help companies that are looking for developers to actually be able to, find them and, assess them and onboard them. Right. So that's what we're trying to do. We currently are working with a lot of tier one VCs, and those VCs basically, are asking us to find AI developers for their portfolio companies. And so we do find a lot of interesting roles that are coming up from startups doing very interesting things. These are obviously funded startups because, the connect came through the VC that invested. And hence, we are also in a good position to find you guys some really good, opportunities there. Right. So if any of you are interested, at the end of the session, I will put my contact details up on screen. Please feel free to send me your CVs. And we are also coming up with a platform soon, right? And this platform is basically an assessment platform, and it will help you to stay on top of your AI game, figure out where your skill gaps are, figure out how you can, work on those skill gaps, and because with the whole aim of eventually helping you to get into these companies. So I will be sharing the waitlist for that also towards the end, and of course we'll put it up in the comment section so that in the chat section that all of you will have easy access to. So with that, we look forward to working with a lot of you guys, whether you are startups looking to hire developers or you're developers looking to go work at startups or even large companies. We look forward to enabling those connections so that you can find, your true calling. So with that, I will hand over to Satvik. I think many of you already know him. He's also been very active in the AI community and the ecosystem. And today's session is going to be, of course, very interesting. Thank you, Satvik, for doing all of the homework and
Yeah, yeah.
summarizing everything for us. Now over to you.
Yeah, sure. So, hi guys, thank you. So, without any delay, I think I'll share the slide at last also so that it will be visible again.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we will let us just start with the session today without any delays. So we have named it GenAI Rewind and 2024 Forecast. So you might think GenAI Rewind is fine, but how are you a fortune teller? How are you able to forecast? So we are not telling any definitive trends, but the thing is being seeing the generative AI space for the last 1 year. So there are some clear trends that are emerging in terms of there are some sure shot things that are going to happen in the next year, and there are some wild predictions that I will make in the presentation today. So feel free to counter them. Feel free, let us try to have a discussion on some of the predictions that I make. So take everything with a pinch of salt, but I'll give you my reasoning for whatever prediction that I make, and let us have a very conversation session. So meanwhile, like if you have not in the WhatsApp Build Fast with AI WhatsApp group already, I think the link is in the chat. So you can just get yourself added to the WhatsApp group so that whatever future events are there, you'll get to know them. And going to the next slide, I'll just, as always, I'll just start with a very quick intro of myself. Like you might not recognize me from the photo on LinkedIn or the one here. So sorry for that. But still, so just to give a bit of intro about myself, I'm a 2019 IIT Delhi graduate. So I have worked as a data scientist for a couple of multinational banks, namely Citibank and Commonwealth Bank. And during college days, I used to run an NGO which was primarily in education sector. So I like to call myself a social entrepreneur there. So currently, I'm trying to explore uh, the intersection of education and AI. So that is what I'm currently doing, and I'm also the founder of buildfastwithai.com. So like which is bringing you this particular session and many other things. So I think I've already shown the website. So I'll just show the website so that you guys can make use of this thing. So we have this website buildfastwithai.com. So if you go to this website, you can get some latest updates about AI. And if you click on the courses part, so all the courses or sessions that we do are uploaded on the website and are free for you to watch. So you can just go log in, create a free account and watch them for free. So yeah, you can make use of that. So, and again, what is Build Fast with AI? Build Fast with AI, I would like to see ourselves as three particular things. One is AI consulting, workshops like this, and we also bring to you many courses related to AI. And you can find more details in the website here. Okay, so I think we have spent enough time on introduction here, and let us just begin with today. Okay, great. So first is that I want to set up some ground rules for today. So first of all, don't sit with a doubt. And the reason I'm saying this is that so the most of the stuff that we are going to talk about today is only like few months old or at max an year old. So whenever we encounter something, whenever we encounter new information, it is obvious that we have doubts. So whenever you encounter something which is not clear to you, feel free to put a message on the chat or maybe unmute yourself and ask a question. And the second thing is to have fun. So we are in the mid of December on a Saturday on the morning. So there is no point of sitting in a session and being dreadful. So I'll try to make the session as fun as possible. And as and when you feel like the session is going down in terms of interest, just give me a heads up. I'll try to spice things up a bit. Okay, great. So agenda for today. So what we'll try to do is I think Nihal has already mentioned there is a lot happening in generative AI space. We'll try to summarize or make sense of whatever has happened over the past year. The way that I wanted to structure this is I'll just start with what has happened with large language models. Then I'll divert a little bit into image and video generation space, then audio and music models, multimodal models, and I'll cover two extra topics like AI safety and generative AI trends in India. So with this thing, let me just go to the session today. So today we'll look at a short history of generative AI. So the reason I made short long is that, so even though it has been only an year, it feels like an eternity for me. If you just look at how the AI systems were 1 year ago and how the AI systems were today, someone like people would have thought the acceleration that has happened in this 1 year would have easily taken 5 or even 10 years for that matter. So that is the reason I made the short very long here. So today we'll actually try to look at the short history of generative AI. So as always, let me like I have deeply worked in large language model space. So what I'll try to do is I'll give you a clear outlook of what has happened with large language models. So you can pay close attention to the trends in large language models. That will be more or less similar with the image generation models and other models as well. Okay. Oh yeah. So if like we were to summarize generative AI in 2023, we can just name the Oscars movie this year, Everything Everywhere All at Once. So I think this can summarize our session today. And a lot of things are happening. So GenAI Rewind. So we start with LLMs, then we had some audio music models, image generation models, copilots, open source, fine tuning, multimodal dev tools, RAG. So there are 50 other things that I've probably missed in this, but we'll try to cover at least 4 or 5 different parts, and we'll try to understand the trends deeply so that we are able to forecast the future in some sense. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I'll try to give you a very deep outlook in terms of the story of large language models. So the story that I tell for large language models is more or less similar for image models and other models as well. So let us talk about the first AI chatbot, right? So as we all know, the first AI chatbot was open to the world in 2022 November, so which is almost 1 year ago. But we would often like Okay, so we will be wrong if we said that ChatGPT is the first AI chatbot. The efforts to create a conversational chatbot has been around forever, like forever in the sense it has been around since the last 50, 60 years. So the first conversational chatbot was made in the year 1965. It was created by a scientist named Joseph at MIT. So where his primary thesis was, he wanted to develop a psychotherapist. He wanted to develop a psychotherapist named Eliza, which will help people cure mental health diseases or something. So this was what he has implemented in 1965. It was more like there was not too much AI, the current generation AI involved in this. So it was more or less rule generation based. So one thing that the reason why I'm telling about this particular story is whatever has happened in the last 1 year is not just because of a couple of years of effort, right? So whatever we are seeing in this last year is an effort of 50 years. 50 years, a lot of scientists, a lot of researchers have worked hard to create a lot of technologies, and that is why we are seeing this acceleration. So we need to keep in mind that there was multiple researchers, failed researchers that have happened over the last decades, which has actually led to this success in generative AI. So if you were to look at the story of LLMs, right? So Eliza was released around 1965, 1969. So the records differ here and there a little bit. So Eliza was released around 1967, and there have been some constant efforts to develop conversational chatbots for the last 50, 60 years. And if you see that this is the journey that we have been through, and you can see that one major shift happened in 2017. I think this is a story that you might have heard a lot of times if you've been attending AI sessions. In 2017, Google released a paper on transformers architecture, which is called "Attention is All You Need." So that really gave that really created an architecture which could scale large language models very well. So from 2017, we have seen a lot of research being done in this thing. And BERT and GPT models were released for first version in 2018, and they have kept improving and improving. And today we are at 2023. So in 2023, like let's say we had only a couple of like a good handful amount of models in 2017, 2018. The last time I checked, in 2023, we have close to 50,000 LLMs. So it's not 50 or 500, it's 50,000 LLMs are currently on the market. Most of them are on Hugging Face for you to download for free and use it. So I'll talk more about that as well. Okay, screen is stuck for some reason. Just a second. Okay. So as I've mentioned that LLMs, like there are around, okay, as I've mentioned that there are around 50,000 LLMs. So it's not actually possible for us to cover the entire history of how these 50,000 LLMs have come into existence. So the main thing, so what I'll try to do is I'll try to take some major foundation models that are currently available in the LLM space, which are the GPT models, which are released by OpenAI, Llama models, which are released by Meta, and Mistral models, which is released by a company called Mistral. So we'll try to cover uh, a brief history of GPT models, Llama models, and Mistral models. So this will give you a idea of what has been happening in the LLM space. So I'll just take a pause here for a second to see if there are any questions. Let me just check the chat.
Is there a reason you didn't cover things like Claude, Anthrop's Claude, etc.? Or what is the reason for covering these three things alone?
Okay, great. So there are multiple other models. The reason that I have taken these three models is that OpenAI is again the leader in LLM space right now. The GPT-4 model, which is released by them, is still at the top of the leaderboard. And more or less, whatever OpenAI does, like sets a trend, right? So that is the reason I decided to cover GPT. The reason I'm not covering Claude models is that they are very closed. They're not very developer friendly. Their APIs are not available for everyone to use. So I wanted to pick and choose those models that are available for developers to use and something that we are seeing ready in production. So that is the reason I didn't choose Anthropic's models. And the reason why I chose Llama and Mistral is that these are completely like more or less open source. And these have particularly looking at the story of Llama models and Mistral models will give us a taste of how open source LLMs is going to change. And there are other companies like Nose Research, LLM 360. There are many other companies, but I wanted to have a good mixture of some closed source LLMs and open source leading LLMs. Is that clear?
Yes, it is. Thanks.
Okay, great. So now let me just start with so what I'll try to do is I'll just tell you the story of what has happened with GPT since the beginning, what has happened with Llama, what has happened with Mistral, and what were the repercussions for generative AI or large language model space due to the release of each one of them. So when GPT came, ChatGPT was released in November of 2023, sorry, 2022, and they have released their APIs open to the world in December. So GPT-2 APIs were available before for researchers, but GPT-3 APIs, the first model that they called was Text DaVinci 003, was available in December last year, right? What this has helped is that this has uh, made developing AI apps a lot easier. So earlier, if you had to develop some sort of an AI application, you had to do a lot of data engineering, you had to do a lot of compute on your end, you had to worry about multiple different things. With GPT APIs, you just have to pay for the API, and developing AI apps has become lot easier. And this particularly, the release of GPT APIs have kicked off a boom in AI startups. So there was some estimates which say that just in the first month since GPT APIs release, there were more than 1,000 AI startups that formed based on GPT-3 technology. So this has been very significant. The GPT APIs, GPT-3 APIs, when they were released in December last year, maybe around the same time, it has really kicked off a boom for AI startups. So more than 1,000 startups, and 1,000 should also, in my opinion, is a very less number. I think the actual number should be in 5,000 or 10,000. So, but this is the impact that GPT-3 APIs had. Now, fast forward in March of this year, GPT-4 was released. GPT-4 is the most capable model by OpenAI, and it has been around like 10 months or 9 months since it has been released. It is still the best model in the market. So, like you can see that between March of this year and December right now, there are at least 20,000 LLMs that have been released. So most of them might be fine-tuned versions, but I'm just loosely naming around. So there are around 20,000 LLMs or even more that have been released during the span of 7 or 8 years. Sorry, 7 or 8 months. But GPT-4 is still the best model on all the benchmarks, on most of the benchmarks. So you might say Gemini, but I'll come to it later. But yeah, GPT-4 is still the best model, hands down. And it is very good at reasoning, complex tasks, coding, and many other structures. So this actually shows the rigor with which OpenAI develops their models, right? So, and there was some story that the GPT-4 was released to the public in March 2023. But there were some reports which say that GPT-4 was developed by OpenAI somewhere around 2021 itself, 2021 or early 2022. So imagine the model that, like we will go to 2024 in like a couple of weeks. The model that was developed by OpenAI in 2021 is still the best model right now. So I can only imagine what things they are brewing right now, right? So I wouldn't be shocked if GPT-5 would be a AGI system or even a super capable system. So I just wanted to throw this stat around that it's been 2-3 years at least since OpenAI has this model, and it is still the best model after everything that is happening. So I think GPT-4 is the most major release that you can consider in the last 1 year in terms of the LLM releases. And one thing that you need to notice, like while GPT-3, GPT 3.5 and GPT-4 came up, throughout the year, OpenAI has been updating these models multiple times. So GPT-3 model has been updated at least 3 to 4 times, different versions. First came GPT Text DaVinci 003, then they gave GPT 3.5 model, then they gave GPT 3.5 turbo model, so on and so forth. So they have upgraded their model multiple times, and same happened with GPT-4 also. GPT-4 model has also had multiple different versions. So the version that is released in March is not exactly the same as the version that we are using today. So there are some changes with the model and their architecture internally. We don't know much about the internal architecture because these are closed source. But over the many versions that OpenAI has released, so one trend that you need to notice is the price, the trends in the price, right? So when OpenAI has released their initial version of GPT-3 around 1 year ago, it costed around $20 per million tokens. So million tokens you can just assume as 750,000 words, or I'm just roughly stating. So it costed around $20 for you to generate million tokens last year. And today you can use the latest version of GPT 3.5, latest and better version of GPT 3.5 for just $2 per million tokens. So that has been a 10x decrease in price. So within 1 year, we have seen something that would cost, let's say if you are working in uh, doing some AI startup or something, in December, let's say your API charges are $100,000. Now you just have to pay $10,000. So imagine the amount of advancement that has happened in terms of price, right? So there is a 10x increase or maybe 1,000% if I'm not wrong, right? So this is the trend in price. And GPT-4 Turbo, which is the most capable model by OpenAI, costs around $30. So initially when they released, it costed around $60 or even more. So now GPT-4 has decreased by 2x, which is not much, but given how big these model and how capable these models are, a 2x% decrease is too much, is lot. So I'll talk more about the trends in pricing as we go forward. But one thing that you need to clearly notice is the prices for using large language models are going to decrease drastically going forward. So I'll make one prediction here is that the smaller, like as we go forward to the next year, the smaller models will cost next to nothing. So it will be as free as, let's say, if you're using Google Docs or something, you're not paying any money, right? It still takes some compute, but it's negligible that it is free. So it's going to happen the same. So smaller models will become virtually free next year, right? So you don't have to pay anything for that. So yeah, so I think this is the trends about the GPT models that has happened over the last year. So any questions with respect to GPT models or anything till now? Okay, no questions. Great. So I think let me go to the Llama models, right?
Sorry, Sadhvik.
So yeah, go ahead.
When we say GPT model, it's necessarily not restricted only to LLMs, right? There could be multi-model models as well. Or we are only talking about LLMs here.
Yeah, so the models that I'm talking about, GPT-3 and GPT-4 Turbo, are language specific models only. If I say GPT-4 Vision, then I'm talking about multimodal model. But GPT 3.5 Turbo, GPT-4 Turbo are specifically language models only.
Okay, so the pricing for the other models will be different than what is here.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So now let me go to, so this is what OpenAI has been proving over the last year, let's say. But one thing uh, that Meta has been doing, and which actually took everyone by surprise, was when Meta or Facebook has released their Llama models. So if you see over the last, like, let's say 1-2 years back, Facebook was really struggling with their metaverse or something. So their stock has plunged by a lot, and people were thinking that Facebook or Meta was already dead, and somehow they managed to release Llama models and they made it open source. So this was, they released the first version of Llama models. So when I say Llama, I don't just mean a single Llama model. So when they released their Llama, the first version of models, they released in three versions: the 7 billion parameter version, 13, and 70 billion parameter versions. So they have released three models on in February 23rd, like in Feb of this particular year, and they have made it open source. So this was the first time a major tech company has released open source models. So that was a very big thing. But a huge bummer was that they came with a non-commercial license. So non-commercial license means that you can download the model, you can use it for your research purposes or purpose, like personal purposes, but you cannot, like you couldn't use the first version of Llama models uh, for your products. You can't do it. You might have to apply for a special license, or they were generally not available. So though it has been a very big step in open source community, since they came with non-commercial license, people were very much limited with what they could do with these models. But still, this particular, like the first version of Llama model has given a very good gift to the open source community in the form of alpaca. So what happened is when uh, let's say around the last month of February, Llama models were released. So in the next month itself, within 2-3 weeks of the Llama model release, so a research group in Stanford, a research group at Stanford, they have fine-tuned this Llama model. They have created a data set. They have created a data set using GPT-3. They have created a data set using GPT-3, and they have just used $600 to produce a model which was qualitatively similar to GPT-3. Right. So what they have done is they have taken a Llama 7B model. So they have trained it on data generated from GPT-3. So if I'm not wrong, they have generated a 500,000, like 5 lakh instruction data generated from GPT-3, and they have trained the Llama model on GPT-3's data. So then they named the model as Alpaca, and they released this model for people to use for free. Like for a few days, the demo was available, and people were shocked that the responses from the Alpaca model were similar to GPT 3.5. So just for context, GPT 3.5, to make that model, OpenAI has spent at least $5 to $6 million or even $10 million. Now, here there is a small research group in Stanford which has spent just $600 and they have created a model which is qualitatively similar to GPT-3. So this was the first signs, in my opinion, this was the first sign which showed to the world that OpenAI can catch up to, open source community can catch up to the closed source models. So this was a very, very big step, in my opinion, when Alpaca was released by Stanford around March of this year. And then the latest update from Meta happened in the form of Llama 2 models. So what they have done is they have released new set of better versions of their Llama models, the same 7, 13, and 70B parameter models. And first time they have allowed, they have given a commercial license to this. So if you wanted to use a Llama 7B or 70B or 13B model in your particular app, you can just download and use it for free. And you don't have to apply for any commercial license. You don't have to do anything. Of course, that there are few conditions that you cannot use these models if you have more than 700 million active users. So this particular rule was primarily aimed at Amazon and Facebook and TikTok, but for us, I don't think this matters. So Llama 2 was released in July of this particular year, and they came with a commercial license. So you could use these use these models in your apps for free. And why this has been a big game changer for open source is that these models were actually good models. So Llama 2 models, Llama 1 was not very great models. Llama 1 were decent models, but Llama 2 models are actually good models. And the second or very important factor, in my opinion, is that the reliability. So given that there is a major tech company which is consistently releasing models. So first it reaffirmed that Meta is committed to open source models, right? So when they released second version of Llama 2, people were thinking, okay, Meta is committed to open source. So we can rely on this particular company for our models, right? So reliability was a very big thing. So there were too many people, there were many people who were releasing open source models, but they were just some random companies or random individuals, but companies were not very comfortable using a random open source model in their application. So when an open source model came from Meta, then there was a lot of trust in people to use these models and they comfortably migrated. I think Llama 2 is one of the biggest contributions that Meta has made to generative AI space. So any questions about the Llama models before we proceed to the Mistral part? Okay, great. So one prediction here that I want to throw around is, so Llama 1 was released in Feb, and the second version of Llama was released in July. So if I'm not wrong, we should have a Llama 3 model coming in the first quarter of next year, maybe in Jan, Feb, or March next year. Like one prediction is that Llama 3 will be is just around the corner, in my opinion. So we can expect a Llama 3 model, a lot more powerful, a lot more optimized models coming from Meta sometime soon in the first quarter of next year. So maybe I'll just keep I'll keep a note of all these predictions, and maybe as we go through the next year, maybe in our groups, meetup groups, and WhatsApp groups, we can just keep checking how many predictions were right and how many predictions were wrong. So that I think that will be a fun thing to do. So I'll try to capture these and track them as well going forward. Okay, great. So now one thing is that now the game it was already pretty interesting here. So there is this company called OpenAI, which was hugely funded by Microsoft, which was leading in closed source models. And now there is another big tech company called Meta, who are releasing very good models and making it open source and commercially with commercial license. So this was the battle that was happening. And there was an underdog player that came into the picture in June of this year, right? In June of this year, this okay, spelling is wrong. Seed round actually. Okay. So in June of this particular year, so there was a relatively unknown company called Mistral, they have raised around $113 million in their seed round. So people were initially curious as to what this company is, and people didn't pay too much attention to it. They just thought, okay, there might be some research lab which people were not knowing. And it is actually founded by some ex DeepMind. DeepMind is Google's research lab, and it is actually founded by ex DeepMind and Meta engineers. And one more important thing to notice is that it is based out of France. So the why am I focusing on the location here? So this part will be more clearer by the end when I talk about generative AI in India. So if a model, let's say if a company is based out of France, so they can create models that are specific to their own culture. They can create their own models. So just for example, the latest models released by Mistral were very good in French. They were very good in other European languages like German, Spanish, and everything, right? So when a particular company is based out of a particular country, so you can see a very good quality of models coming in that particular language. So since this Mistral is based out of France, we can see that Mistral is already leading in European language models as of now. And what has happened, like in June, they have raised funding. It raised some eyebrows, but people didn't know who that was and what they did. But things really changed in September 23 when Mistral released their first small model, which was a 7 billion parameter model. So they have released a 7 billion parameter model in September, and it soon became the best small model available in the market. So till then, Llama 7B model, a 7B model was available. It was good, and people have fine-tuned Llama 7B models in various ways and improved their performance. But what people found is this base model, which was released by Mistral, was already good at too many things. So it soon climbed up the LLM leaderboard. And as a result of this, today, if you go to Hugging Face, you can see around 30 to 100 models, around more than 3,000 models that are being trained on the top of Mistral model. So that is how impactful this particular model has been, right? And one interesting thing to notice, it comes with Apache 2.0 license. So Apache 2.0 license means it is a commercial license and you can use it as in like however you want. So you don't have to like pay anyone any commission. You don't have to take any permission. You don't have to do anything. Whenever there is Apache 2.0 license, it means that you are completely free to use the model as you like. And you might want to still go and read some terms and conditions. But generally, whenever something releases with Apache 2.0 license, you can assume that it is commercially, or like you can use that model commercially and as in how you like. Yeah, and as I mentioned, this gave rise to too many fine-tuned models. So in this particular aspect, Mistral had a lot of impact in terms of pushing the open source community to the brink, right? So there were some models, like in the thousands of models that we are talking about, there were some models like Open Hermes model, or maybe Intel has created a fine-tuned model called Neural Chat, which is based on. So Intel has created a model. They have basically fine-tuned Mistral model using some fine-tuning technique. And Neural Chat model was one of the top LLMs on the leaderboard when they created, right? So this model has competed with GPT 3.5. For context, GPT 3.5 is a 175 billion parameter model. So you can see a 7 billion parameter model, which is comparative to 175 billion parameter model. So that is how powerful Mistral has been. And what to expect from Mistral going forward. So Mistral is again like their first model released in September. Just last week, they have released two models called Mistral Mixture of Experts model and Mistral Medium models. So this is open source. This is like they call it open weights model. So this they have not released yet, not released to public, but you can use it using APIs. So the business model might have been like just from what I understand from reading their documents and whatever gyan I got from Twitter. So the business model of Mistral is probably like they will create very good models, very good small models, and make it available for free. And they will create some very specific top-notch models, which they will keep it for themselves and they'll offer it as an API. So at the end of the day, every company has to make money, right? So this might be one of the ways that they're trying to monetize their position in the market by releasing smaller models to the community and like making them experiment with it. But there might be some more capable models which they are probably keeping it with themselves, and they are using an API to get money out of it. So which is not a bad thing if you think about it, because every company, like recently, like just couple of weeks back, Mistral has raised $400 million. $400 at 2 billion valuation, right? So at the end of the day, this is all investors' money. Investors will have to make that money back somehow. So they are not going to make it if they release everything completely open source. So there might be something going on with Mistral. So we will never know. So currently, they have recently launched their platforms where you can use their models using APIs as well. And one more interesting story about Mistral is that Mistral 1 year back has only written that they are going to release a model by the end of this year, which will beat 3.5 model. So as they have said, they have released this Mistral MOE model just last week, which performs a lot better than GPT 3.5. And there was one memo where they have mentioned that they will create a model which is a competitor of GPT-4 by mid of next year. So they'll probably name the model as Mistral Large, right? So one prediction that I'll make here is Mistral Large model will come sometime next year, mid of next year, before let's say before June or July. Mistral Large model will come, and this model will beat GPT-4. Right? So this might happen sometime next year. So this is the prediction for Mistral. So if you were to trust their track record of delivering whatever they have said, so they said they will release best 7 billion parameter model, and they have released it in September. They said they'll release a model which is better than GPT 3.5, and they have released it. And if we go by their prediction, we might have a good model for GPT-4 in the mid of next year as well. Right. So any questions here? Any questions or doubts?
Satya, can you tell us a little bit about that Mixtral? Mixtral.
Yeah, sure. So actually, this is Mistral MOE, or it is same as Mixtral model itself. Okay, my screen froze for some reason. Yeah, I think it's working. Okay, so this is actually a Mixtral model. So some people are calling Mistral MOE or Mixtral model. So Mixtral model is nothing but how is it different from any other model that has come in the market till now? So is that we have mostly seen a 7 billion parameter model, and the next level of 7 billion parameter model is a 13 billion parameter, or a 30 billion parameter model, or even 70 or 170, so on and so forth. But one thing that Mistral has done differently is that instead of, they have taken their best 7B model, instead of creating a model with more parameters, like let's say a 33 billion parameter model or a 70 billion parameter model. So what they have done is they have created 8 7B models at once. So each model is being trained differently and which specializes for different tasks, right? So it is a mixture. That is the reason it is called mixture of experts. It's not a single 7 billion parameter model. Rather, it is 8 7B models which are specialized in specific tasks, right? What the advantages of this particular model is that the inference speed of these models is a lot higher, and these are a lot more cheaper to serve than the 33 or 70 billion parameter models. They can perform, they can like with this particular architecture, if done right, they can perform better than 175 billion parameter model like GPT 3.5 or even 70 billion parameter models. But cost of serving these models is equivalent to or less than serving a 13 billion parameter model. So you're getting best of the both worlds here. You're getting the performance as a very big model, and you are getting the cost benefit of a small model. So that is why this Mistral model that OpenAI, Mistral has released, is a very big thing. And if we were to believe rumors, people say that GPT-4 also is a Mistral of experts model. So some people guess that GPT-4 is a trillion parameter model, And there are some people who say that GPT-4 is actually a mixture of experts model. So again, it being a closed source model, we don't know the exact specifics of whether it is or whether it is not.
Can
So,
you explain
yeah,
what is the MOE little more in detail?
MOE is mixture of experts. So this is exactly right. So instead of a single 7 billion parameter model, you have 8 small models stitched together. And whenever you make a prediction, whenever you make a token prediction, instead of using the entire weights, you're only using 2 experts in here. So maybe I'll like in the interest of time, I'll just leave it at here, and I'll take a detailed explanation at the end if it is all right.
Okay.
Okay. So any other questions here? Okay. So now that we have covered, so one thing that you need to notice here is how OpenAI has released their closed source model, and how open source models like Llama models and Mistral models were playing a cat and mouse game, if you can call it, right? So last year, OpenAI has released GPT 3.5 around the same time. And today we have a Mistral MOE model, which is completely open source, which beats GPT 3.5. Right? So within 1 year, open source is able to catch up this thing. So the reason that I have said all this history and made this predictions is to give you an idea of what is happening inside, right? So this will help you predict some trends. So now I'll go to the next slide and I'll make some predictions for what will happen in next year in LLM space overall. So I've already made few predictions right now, but let me just spend some more time with predictions here. So as
When you
with,
say
yeah,
GPT-3, is it GPT 3.5 or what is it? So there are
yeah,
multiple
whenever I
versions,
say
right?
whenever I say GPT-3, I mean 3.5 turbo.
Okay,
So whenever so the latest model that is available right now is GPT 3.5 turbo. So I mean only that.
sure. Thanks.
Okay, great. So let me make some predictions for large language model space. So one thing that I'll repeat for every other model is that they will become smaller, they will become faster, they will become cheaper, they will become better. Right. So like I think uh, if you have if you have paid attention to whatever that I've said so far, I think this shouldn't be something that is troubling to you, right? So you should easily be able to figure out, okay, this is obvious, no? Because there was a 175 billion parameter model last year, and today we have a 7 billion parameter model, which is a lot more smaller, which is again a lot more faster. It is cheaper, and it is also better, right? So predictions for LLM is that we might, like, recently Microsoft released a model called Phi 2.7b. So it's a 2 billion parameter model, which apparently beats GPT 3.5 in some benchmarks or something. So if you were to trust them. So one clear trend is that we will have smaller, faster, cheaper, and better models. And the benefit of this is that, so even Google Gemini has released, like Google has released Gemini Nano model, which is a small 1 billion parameter model, and the Pixel 8 Pro phone comes embedded with these models, right? So one other prediction is that you will be able to run LLMs on phone without internet. So you can chat with your phone, like you can ask it about any questions. You can talk to the entire human knowledge on your phone without internet. So that will happen. That will surely happen in the next year, in the first couple of months. So the next wave of smartphones that you will see. So let's say whenever is the release cycle, let's say whenever a new Samsung phone comes up, or whenever a new Apple phone comes up. I think Apple is already done with changing the orientation of their cameras and notches. And I think the next Apple release will be about a large language model fitted with Siri. So Siri or Google Assistant will become a lot more powerful and a lot more capable. There will just not be a assistant where you can just say, Siri, just wake me up in 1 hour, or maybe set up a meeting. You will be able to have a lot deeper conversations with your phone assistants or online assistants, and it can understand you very deeply. So your phone will not just be an assistant to you to schedule some calls, but it can probably become Okay, so it can actually become something that is of your friend, right? Let's say, again, a wild prediction here is, let's say if you are feeling demotivated, or if you're not feeling well, your phone already knows why you're feeling like that, because it can read every message that you have. It knows whatever is going on in your life, and it will be able to understand you very, very deeply. And this also gives rise to very serious data security issues also. Let's say if there is a phone that is with you, and our data privacy is already compromised, right? So everything that we, even as we are talking right now, I'm sure my Android phone is listening to everything, and it will bombard me with some sort of ads. Maybe I'll see a Pixel Pro ad after this particular session, right? So privacy is already intruded, but with LLMs running on your phones, uh, like there will be a lot more intrusion into privacy, and the phone will actually become very more intimate in terms of the conversations that you can have with your assistants, and the things that you can do with your phone will be enormous, right? So some prediction along in that line is wider adoption of copilots, right? You will have copilot not just within your phone, you will have a copilot within your laptop as well. So if you want to attend a particular, let's say if there is some work that you're doing, let's say your job involves creating a presentation, your copilot will already know whatever you have done so far. It already knows what you have to do, so it can probably do work for you, right? So there will be a copilot within your system which can do work for you, which is not, which can happen sometime before next year. And one more prediction is that smaller and fine-tuned models will take over the market. So let's say for context, GPT-4 model actually costs around what, $30 per million tokens. And if you were to use a 3 billion parameter model or a 7 billion parameter model, you can use it for $0.1 today, right? So which is how much? Uh, into 10 into 300 times. So 300 times cost effective, right? So instead of having a very large model like GPT-4 or GPT-5 and paying them $30 per million tokens, you might rather have an army of small models like 3 billion parameter, 7 billion parameter model, which are fine tuned for that specific task. And you can have a cost benefit of like 100x or 200x based on that. And this is the reason why I mentioned the initial prediction that I made a couple of slides back, is that smaller models will get more and more cheaper, and it will become virtually free, right? Using a small model, let's say 3 billion parameter or 7 billion parameter model, will be free going forward. It might happen sometime soon next year. 1 billion parameter, I don't think people will even charge that, because it will come ingrained with your phone or maybe laptop. So yeah, so these are some predictions for LLMs going forward for the next year. So if anyone wants to make an even wilder prediction, or maybe have any objection to the predictions I made, maybe you can like send a chat or maybe unmute yourself and ask a question.
Yeah, one of the contradiction is the smaller the model, the lower the performance or hallucination, etc. Right? So I don't know whether I would agree with smaller models will become more popular. Maybe fine-tuned smaller model for specific purposes, I agree. But smaller general purpose models will be a failure. Yeah, more of a contradiction.
Yeah, sure. So I think totally agree with you with that. But to counter that, there are new frameworks that are coming up. There are new and better optimization techniques that are coming up, which will eventually make smaller model even better. So for now, yeah, like there is a new architecture called Mamba, which released like a month back or something, which is a alternate architecture to transformers, right? So I'm telling smaller models will become even more smaller. We might have a 300 million parameter model, not even 3 billion, 300 million parameter model, which will give us a good performance. So yeah, that is my counter to it. Okay, there are some questions on the chat as well. Implications on cost models and this thing. Can you repeat the commercial license part? I think we are off that. Are there any real implementations of small models? Yeah, there are many implementations of small models. So whatever models that I'm talking about, like Mistral models, Llama models, are everything. So there are many platforms that are available which are giving APIs. So whatever cost that I'm telling, $0.1 or $0.2 is the cost that you can avail this from. So you can go to websites like anyscale.com, let's say. And like, let's say this is a company that offers Llama 2 endpoints. You can go and check their pricing. They actually offer a Llama 7B model for $0.15, right? So you can also do fine tuning. So maybe I'll cover more resources at the end. But yeah, so whatever implementations are there, there are many platforms like Anyscale, Perplexity, Deep Infra, which are offering APIs at this cost as well.
So just a second, we are saying that by the adoption of co-pilots, like for example, what we are aware of, like one co-pilot that is existing, that is GitHub Copilot. Are we saying that there would be a similar co-pilot in the future? And if yes,
So
then sort of what?
yeah, like again, like we are going into the prediction mode here. So one thing is that code is very much definitive, right? So
Yes.
whenever someone writes a function, you can predict what the function could be, right? So, but there are many other things that people do are very random, right? So a copilot which engrains, which comes involved with the laptop, can do a lot of other things. It can write emails for you. Over the course of time, it can study your patterns. It can learn how you react. Let's say if there are multiple people, let's say I get 10 calls a day, and I am actually probably involved only in 2 or 3 calls. My copilot can take a call for me, right?
Sort of assistant.
Sort of assistant, copilot. I think there are multiple different definitions when you go into copilot, agent, or anything. So, but yeah, like we are free to assume whatever it means. But whatever definition you think, some sort of form will come next year for sure.
And to add to that, I think when we think about co-pilots, we would think about right now, if you're talking about GitHub Copilot, that is specifically for developers, makes their life a lot easier. Really, it takes a lot of their load off, right? Think of the same thing for designers. There could be a copilot that actually helps designers to think through, to give them suggestions while they're designing. It can, share some inputs or share some inspiration, all of those things. And on the more mundane side of it, think of a copilot for, like, let's say, an accountant. It can automatically do a lot of the manual calculations that they will do, automatically suggest formulas. In some sense, we see this. We see a lot of this happening in Google Sheets also. Even if you highlight a set of numbers, it will suggest to you, do you want to use a sum, this and all of that, right? So the use cases are going to be that pretty much for any task, for any profession, you can make their, if you can make their life a little bit easier by providing an assistant, that you can, that is basically what the co-pilot is. And so in that way, it can, it can be very, very domain specific. But like Satvik said, if it has access to your phone, if it has access to your laptop, it knows pretty much whatever you're doing. It can become a more generic personal assistant. And in that sense, a true co-pilot for your life.
Yeah, I think pretty much covers it, because coding is a definitive and easy, like slightly easier because it is predictable what code you are writing, right? But as Nihal has mentioned, design is some field where it will come. Data analysts will probably use it more. So once you upload a data set, it will already know that it has to do a basic data cleaning and exploratory data analysis. So it can do some things by yourself. So you are only left with some things that are really necessary of sorts. Okay, so there is one question about, do you see an orchestrator LLM which works with smaller text and image models? Yeah, so there are models like, I'll cover about multimodal models going forward, but there are some small uh, uh, okay, sorry. So there are some small models, 7B models like Lava or Baklava, not a suite, but which can run on your computer and it can read your screen as well. So going forward, that is what I mean. So the copilot will not be something that can just respond to a particular text, right? There will be a copilot which can read your screen, right? There can be a copilot which can listen to a YouTube video along with you, right? There can be a copilot which is writing along with you, which is talking along with you, which is listening along with you. So a lot of sci-fi stuff is actually possible. Okay, great. So let me go to the, I think we are done with LLMs part here. So, okay, okay, I just have a last slide here. So one things that you need to look out for, the models that you can look out for is GPT-5 model might come next year, or if you were to believe the leaks, GPT 4.5 model will drop sometime soon. So I am personally very excited about Llama 3 models, given whatever has happened in the open source space. So I'm very curious to what Llama 3 models will be like, and how will they be better than Mistral models, or how the licensing will be, so on and so forth. I'm particularly very excited for this. So Claude 3 again, like Claude 2 is already available, which is a decent, like which is a good model. I didn't play around a lot with it because APIs were not available, but I use Claude chatbot for writing some emails or communication or something. So I find Claude 2 to be a good chatbot in terms of writing something. So Mistral large model is something that I've mentioned. So this you can expect in sometime mid-year. So this will be a model that will beat GPT-4 in some aspect. So I am very much excited for this as well. One other model which I'm not so excited, but I'm just curious, is about Gemini Ultra. So they have released this model already. Like they have made an announcement, but it will be available for public use next year. So I just wanted to experiment with what Gemini model has in the series. And one other thing that you need to know is there are a lot of good models that are coming out of China. So Gwen is a company is a set of models released by Alibaba. Alibaba is a very big tech giant in it's an Amazon of sorts for China. So they are releasing Gwen models. They are releasing Gwen text models, audio models, video models, many other things, crazy stuff those people are doing. And Yi models are by a scientist called Kai Fu Lee. He was a senior VP of engineering at VP of engineering or AI at Apple. So he was one of the very close associates of Steve Jobs. So he's a Chinese, and he has established a new company called 01.ai. So they have released a model called Yi in 6 billion model and 34 billion model, which are apparently very good. So you can be on outlook for Gwen models, Yi models, and also something called DeepSeek models, DeepSeek coder and chat models. So there are a lot of interesting models coming out of China as well. So yeah, like these are on the top of the mind. These are some models that you can be on lookout for in the next year. So whenever this model comes out, be sure to drop a message on our meetup community or WhatsApp saying that this model has released. Okay, great. Okay, Siddharth has a question. Go ahead.
Hey, thank you. Great session so far. I have a sort of a new noob question. So sorry about that. But you mentioned that we can leverage these open source models to do all kinds of stuff. So what are the different things we can do? Like probably change the parameters, tweak them, or change the data that it's trained on, or what? I just wanted to understand what all can be done when
Okay,
you
sure.
talk about open
So
source.
I'll give you a simple example for this, right? So now that you have the model weights with you, and let's say you are wanting to develop a model which is specifically trained for mental health, right? So if you are chatting with the model, you see that model responds good. Like you say hi, it says hello, right? You give a say that you are feeling down, it gives you some response here and there. But let's say you want your model to be even more empathetic, right? You want your model to really listen and maybe analyze and give some help. So what you can do is you can create so there are some mental health data sets that are available, or you can create your own data sets and fine tune this open source model to make it more viable for mental health application, right? So you can also take this model and fine tune it on some maths data sets to make it more better at maths. Or maybe let's say you are working in a company and you want a model which is specific to your company, so you can fine tune that model on your company's data and create a model out of it. So the amount of possibilities are endless in terms of what things that you can do. You can also do very bad things also. Like there are some uncensored models that are available that you can, like, I will not show in this particular session, but you can download some uncensored models on your system where you can ask it any sort of wild question. You can ask how to kidnap someone, how to exploit someone. It will give you a step-by-step guide. So that is also something that is possible with some uncensored models. And I'll touch upon these points in the AI safety part at the end, as to how to identify, like how to be aware of this risk. And there is probably little we as individuals could do about saving ourselves, but having information about what is possible with AI is a very big tool, right? So if there is something that is coming in your way, you should be able to know that it is probably AI generated, and you should be able to give a benefit of doubt, right? So that is the reason why it's important to understand capabilities of LLMs and what it can do and what it can't do.
Makes sense, makes sense. Again, just following up to that, I know this might be all over, the internet, but exactly how to proceed in, sort of editing some open source model. Is there any guide that you would refer me to, or or maybe I should understand the basics?
Guide about what?
Working around LLMs and open source models to tweak them in any way that we want.
One thing that I would suggest is that, like, the way I learned is to just randomly go onto internet, find some random YouTube videos, find some articles, and then find it. But since I have gone through this, you need not go through. So attend whatever sessions that I'm doing. And generally, like on the other side also, one thing that I'll tell everyone is that if you want to learn anything, let's say it can be about AI, it can be about some other subject or something, find some resources that really work for you. Let's say if you want to learn about trading or something, find the people whom you connect to and follow them on Twitter. Find some really
Right.
good YouTube channels that you feel you can benefit from. Subscribe to those Substack pages that you really feel works for you. And there might be some YouTube channels or there might be some Twitter handles that work really well for me because that is how I learn or that is what I like. So the same set of YouTube channels or Twitter handles or articles might not be a very good thing for you. So let's say if you are wanting to learn about new space, let's say open source models or AI or something, uh, one thing, like let's say this is a concerted effort that you want to, let's say you want to become good at this over the horizon of next 3 to 6 months. One thing that you need to start today is to search for resources that really work well for you, right? So earlier I was following, like I was not even on Twitter last year, right? I was only on Twitter in March or April this year. So I started following 1-2 people. I just opened a Twitter account just to follow 2-3 people, and today I follow more than 300-400 people, only AI based people. So I get a lot of news from there, so it really works for me that way. So it took a lot of time also to build that particular group of people whom I'm getting my news or source.
Right. Got it. Thanks.
Okay. Okay, there is one question about fine tuning and RAG. I'll just answer this question here, just a second. So when we say fine tune, how do we go about it? So again, like there are a lot of fine tuning techniques, there are a lot of RAG techniques, and there is a framework for you to decide when to use fine tuning or RAG. So if you are dealing with a data set, if you're dealing with some sort of a data which is constantly changing, then use RAG, right? If you are dealing with some specific domain knowledge where data is not changing rapidly, then use fine tuning. So the logic is simple, right? If the data is changing constantly, you can't keep fine tuning your model on a daily basis or a weekly basis. If the data is constant, you fine tune it once and use it. If the data is constantly changing, use RAG. And again, how to do fine tuning and something is probably a session for another day, but there are a lot of techniques for fine tuning that you can find. And same for RAG as well. Yeah, there was one other question. Okay, any other question, anyone? Okay, so what I'll do is let me just fast forward to the audio
Hey,
and
Satvik, can
images.
you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
So great session, Satvik, so far. So I wanted to ask, like, is there any book or something you can refer us to get started?
Book, I'm not sure because everything is changing on a daily basis. I don't think you can rely on a book. But yeah, I'll suggest
Okay.
maybe I think I'll point some resources maybe at the end. Maybe for now I'll just proceed with the session because we are already at 12:15. So let me cover few more slides and then we can stop for a discussion over. Okay, great. So now let me go to the image generation models and whatever story that you have listened for LLMs, right? A similar story can be applied for image generation models also. So here the OpenAI, let's say, okay. So just to give you a sense of how good the open source, how good image generation models have become. So this is how, like, let's say if you asked it to generate a picture of a human, this is how it would generate in 2022. And I should be fair here, I should say early 2022, because models like I've this example is slightly exaggerated, but you get the point. So in early 2022, image generation models were like this. So it could not replicate faces properly, it could not get fingers right, or so on and so forth. And this is the latest version of Midjourney model. So this is the AI generated model, right? If you just zoom and look at, okay. So this like, okay. So this is the model that this is the image that an AI has generated. So as with large language models, image generation models have also become very, very good. And let's say there for large language models, OpenAI was the king. Here the king is Midjourney, right? Let's say you can say this as a OpenAI equivalent, but they are going actually down here. So Midjourney was the leader in image generation till the mid of this year, and somehow everyone else started catching up, right? So there was Stability AI, they have released their stable diffusion models. Leonardo AI has released their own dream shaper models. There was a new company called Ideogram by some previous research scientists from famous labs. So they had a decent enough model. And everything like changed when DALI 3 was released within ChatGPT itself. It is also available in Bing Copilot as well to use right now. One trend that I'm seeing is image generation model is no longer a moat, in my opinion, because as of today, uh, most, let's say, 4 or 5 months back, or even 5 or 6 months back, you could clearly tell a particular image was from Midjourney and particular image was from Stable Diffusion, depending on how good or bad it is. But now it has become very difficult because every model is very good. Like every model is able to generate hyper realistic images. Every model is able to generate some things better than the other. So I'm thinking image generation will probably be a leveling field going forward. It will no longer be a very big differentiator. Right. So this is the trend with this thing. But one thing that maybe if I were to go to the next slide in this. Okay. So earlier, an image generation, let's say if you were to use stable diffusion or something, a single image would probably took around 5 to 10 seconds to generate. And now Stable Diffusion has released a model called Stable Diffusion Turbo XL. It can generate 1,000 images per second. Just imagine that. So a single model can generate 1,000 images per second. How cool is that? So that is how far we have been. So I'll not generate 1,000 images in this particular session, but let me show you a demo of what Stable Diffusion Turbo can do. So it is a real-time image generation tool where you can just play around with it. So I'll just show you the demo and you can appreciate how wonderful this is. Okay, so I'll just say a cat. With a crown. I'll say I want a black cat. I was probably fine with a white cat. On mountain. Riding a bike. Along with other cats. You see the amount of image generation, right? This is the real-time image generation tool. So it can generate images as quickly as your thoughts. So you are only limited by the speed that you can generate. So I think we can try one example. Like if there is anyone who wants to try out something, they can just send me a message in the chat. I will paste the exact same thing and I'll keep improvising. Let's just spend 2-3 minutes to appreciate this. So anyone wants to experiment anything with it can just tell what you can do. A British officer begging in front of, okay, nice. I think this might be a bit, I don't know if it will generate it or not. Let's see. A British officer is begging. So whenever it involves some faces or something, you can see some problem. But let's say we can generate it one by one. With Indians. Yeah, I think you get the point. So maybe let me try any other examples. Flying crows playing football in the sky with dinosaurs. Okay, that's a lot of creativity. I think let us just try to do it line by line. Okay, flying, let's say, let me just take cow. Let's see if it is generating. Cow. So let me just say a flying cow. Okay. Playing football with dinosaurs. Pretty nice. So let's say you want it in the sky, right? In the sky. Okay, we don't see the cow because the dragon has already kicked the cow, or something is happening. Okay, monkey sitting behind the first and recent prime ministers. Okay, so there are a lot of suggestions. Let me give one more try. So female model driving an open Ferrari. Okay, a female model. Okay, driving a car. Let's say first. This model is probably a bit this thing, but Stable Diffusion Excel Turbo is a bit better. For this demo, I'm using this model, but there are better models available. Okay, we want to ride a Ferrari. Okay, I've reached the usage cap, so you get the point, right? So you can just upgrade. So this is free for people to try. So I'll just send the link. So everyone, be sure to like I think I have everyone's email ID, so I'll send all these links at the end. I'll show a couple of more interesting demos. I'll send all the links in a while, but you get the point, right? So this is where we have been. So last year, if you had to develop something uh, with image generation models, you had to type a prompt and wait for 10 seconds. Now you are able to generate models at turbo speed. You can generate models which are as fast as your thinking is. So that is something which is amazing. Okay, so this is where we were with image models, and let me make some predictions with image models. And one common theme will be that models will get smaller, better, faster, cheaper. So that is obviously going to happen. And one more thing is that image generation will also become almost free, in my opinion. Like I think in Google Slides or something, in Google PPT or Google Slides, uh, uh, if you have some enterprise edition, you can already generate images for free in that, right? So image generation is already free in Bing Chat or something. So I don't see image generation being free through APIs, but there are a lot of platforms that you can use to generate any number of images for free. So similar to LLMs, the image generation models will also get smaller, better, and faster, cheaper, and it will generate even more hyper realistic images. I really don't know what's the ceiling for this here. So we already generate hyper realistic images, but I was running out of things to predict. So I just threw around this point saying it will become more hyper realistic, right? So one thing that you might have noticed or not noticed is that these models, image generation models, even though they can generate hyper realistic images, they are very bad with text. So if you ask them to generate a poster with some text, they can't do it. So there are only 2-3 models that can do it right now. DALI 3 is one model. DALI 3 is one model, and let's say, and ideogram is one model which can generate text within this. Let's say you want to generate, maybe you can after the call go and ask Bing chat to generate a poster with some title. I tried generating a poster for this particular event called create a poster with title GenAI Rewind. So every model failed. GPT, like DALI 3 generated it, but the spelling was always like little messier, right? I couldn't never get it to spell it correctly. So going forward with image generation, we will see the models which can write text within this thing. So, and this is not, why is it difficult? You might ask, okay, if a model can generate an image like this, so why is it difficult to generate a text, right? Why is it difficult to generate a single poster? It basically boils down to how these models are trained, right? These models are trained to identify features. Uh, the way of training is different, so they don't learn how to identify letters. So, but I think we will soon see some models next year where we can generate some text within images as well. So we will be able to generate a posters on the go rather than having to generate an image and then write a poster, then write a title on it. And I'm also guessing that we will have some sort of models. So in my opinion, there is no a standalone model that can generate graphs or infographics. So let's say if you're working on a presentation, pitch deck, or anything, if you want to generate some graphs for it, I don't think there is a image model to do that. Of course, you can uh, write an LLM logic to generate some random numbers and then use some Python library to generate a graph. But there is no model as of now which can generate a graph as such or an infographic as such. So one thing that I want to see in image generation models going forward is to the ability to generate text and being able to generate some sort of graphs, infographics. Let's say if a student wants to learn about something, let's say if I want to learn about AI and I want to generate a mind map, so I would want my image generation model to be able to generate a mind map for me, right? So I'm thinking this might be possible next year, but in terms of if it can generate 1,000 images per second, and if it can generate this hyper realistic images, I don't know what the next stage is. We can just only, it already reached to the ultimate depth. Now we can only accept now we can only like expect it to cover the horizontal width as well in terms of the amount of things that it can do. Okay, great. So I'll cover video generation as well, and then I'll take some questions. I think there are some questions on the chat, but just give me some time so that we'll image and video, I'll take the questions at a time. Okay, so I'll just show you one demo of Pika Labs. Pika Labs is one of the leading company in leading startup in image generation space. So there are many other startups. I'll give the name soon, but let us just see a demo of what Pika Labs can do today. I hope everyone is able to see my screen. Wow. So this is what it could do, right? So I think, so how many are pleasantly surprised by what they have seen right now, or unpleasantly like, okay. So yeah, this was Pika
So,
Labs demo. Yeah.
Satvik, so, these demos look really good, but how much of it is staged versus actually it can get done, right? Like the Gemini thing versus what you just showed before, where you're changing the words and it is generating in real time.
Yeah, I think I don't think Pika Labs is faking this, because there were let's say with stable video diffusion or other video models that I have used, I see that these models are already good in some aspect, and this is not whatever video that I'm seeing is a step change. It's not something that was never possible like a few weeks back and it is suddenly possible. One thing with Gemini, whatever they have shown was that they have packed in too many things at once. So like people were shocked because it was able to see the image and respond in real time with both voice, video input, and it is able to convert. So that was a huge. It was not a gradual change. It was a huge step change. That is why people were shocked and they reacted badly uh, when they understood that it is fake. But at least in my opinion, video models, there is a constant progression, right? Earlier, let's say a couple of months back, you could only generate a 3D, like you upload an image and you could only generate a 3D model of it. And then you could generate a 3 second clips or 5 second clips based on an image, right? So with whatever demo that we are seeing, it's not something that is a huge step change from what was possible yesterday, rather than a gradual increase. So I am 90% or 95% sure that this is actually a true thing. Of course, like when with demos and all, people always spice things a little bit. They show their best examples. They don't show the examples for which they don't perform. But with capability aspect, I think they're pretty much there. Okay, so let me just complete the video generation and then I'll read the questions. Okay, so you need to look out for if you are working in video generation space, so you need to look out for Pika Labs. Pika Labs is a startup which is probably valued at what, $1 billion or something in their recent round. So Runway ML is also a similar video generation company. Synthesia and Hagen will allow you to generate your own replica, right? If I upload a 1 minute video of me talking, so it can create a persona for me, and it will clone my voice, it will clone my face and everything. It will probably deepfake my face as well as my voice or in some sort. So you can actually go and do a free trial. So you can generate 1-2 videos for free. So I encourage you guys to go and try out these models. And stable video diffusion is different because this is coming from Stability AI, which is this is an open source model. So I have played around this model and I can vouch for how good it is. So open source model here, everywhere, same story. So there are some leading people like Pika Labs, Runway ML. So there are some companies which are closed source companies which are pushing the boundaries. And within few weeks time or a month's time, there are some open source companies or open source projects which are catching up, right? So everywhere, same story, like with LLM, same story with image models as well as with video models. Video is slightly tricky and more complicated. So the delta might be a little higher here, but we will soon see some open source projects which are as good as this. So I'll make one prediction for video generation and then I'll take questions. So the prediction for next years of video generation is we will have a full length movie by end of next year. So I'm not going to accept for anything less than this prediction. So we might have a movie in the theater which is completely generated by AI. And one other wild prediction is that actors will become immortal, right? Let's say if Shah Rukh Khan is acting in a picture today, so we need not be shocked if he's acting as a hero in a movie 100 years down the line, because his replica is generated. So whoever owns, maybe you can think that great grandchildren of Shah Rukh Khan will own image or video rights of their great grandfather, and they can allow Shah Rukh Khan to be cast in a movie even after 100 years and they can still reap benefits. Again, this is a very wild prediction, but yeah, like with whatever capabilities that we are seeing today, I don't think we are very far away from generating a full length movie using AI by end of next year.
Yeah, Satvik, I want to counter that. I want to say that is, I think, some way away. Like, I think we are at least a couple of years away from that. Mainly because it's very, very cost prohibitive to generate videos now, right? Like most of the tools that you mentioned there, like Hagen, Runway ML, Pika Labs, it'll cost you at least like $50 to generate maybe 5 videos, like $50 a month to generate about 5 videos now, and of like 10 second or like 1 minute length, right? So when you're talking about full length movie by end of next year, we're talking like a drastic reduction in prices, which I am not sure if we'll be there. I mean, I am glad, right? Because um, like that'll do wonders for social media marketing. That'll do wonders for videos for like media companies itself. And I'll be all up for that, right? If that happens. But are you sure you think that the technology will improve so drastically in 1 year that we'll be able to make it so cost inhibitive and be able to like generate videos as much as we generate images today?
Sure. So one thing that I would say is video generation is costly today. No questions about it. It's very costly. But if you look at, let's say there was some Shah Rukh Khan's ad, or maybe Jennifer Lopez shot an ad for Virgin Group, right? A big hotel chain for their cruise ship. So imagine getting dates for Jennifer Lopez, like hiring, accommodating their entire team for a period of 2-3 days, renting a large location, camera equipment, and everything. So a single ad video would probably run into couple of $1 million when you are involving a big celebrity, right? So here, let's say if you're generating a 1 minute video with Hagen or Sindesha, I am ready. Let's say media companies would say that I am ready to even spend $100,000 on this. Because if I get the movie star to come here and generate, I'll probably go into $1 million. So even with the full length movie, also, if you look at a 2 hour long movie, what is the budget of movies these days? Like a good movie will easily run into some 100 crores or 200 crores, right? So I don't see a fully autonomous movie, but there might be some parts of the movie, like as with CGI and VFX that is being used, it will become a lot more easier to do VFX or CGI using AI. But I don't see I think cost is obviously an issue, but what I mean to say is it will be possible to generate a video despite cost considerations. As with all other models, we will also see that the cost for this will eventually go down. So we never know. Maybe by the end of next year, it will be uh, a free thing to do. Maybe. I'm not sure. Okay, now I think we have a lot of questions in chat, so let me take it one by one. So yeah, meanwhile, if anyone else is there, they can just go ahead and ask their questions. Will you be sharing the meeting recording as well? Yes, sir, we will be sharing the recording. Is the capping per day level? Yeah, for clip drop it is. Spatial position of objects within an image as per coordinate is poor now. Spatial positioning, yeah, like with some models, but there are like, even with image models, right, there are like hundreds or if not thousands of models. You can try with different models which are specifically fine-tuned for spatial positioning. I'm pretty sure you will find a solution that works for your use case. Okay, so it's easy to generate a hyper realistic image of Bill Gates as homeless, but a monkey riding a Santa. I didn't get the question, what the question here is. But yeah, like one thing that is, if there is a model which is already, let's say Bill Gates is very well known to the model, so model will not have a trouble in taking Bill Gates picture and maybe changing it to something else, or the other way around. But monkey riding a Santa, I'm not clear about the question, but just to give a point, if the model already knows current photos and this thing, it will be easily able to do that. Okay, just answer the question. I think we have started as, okay, this was an answer. Great. Will any LLM be able to generate an image of Bill Gates? So I wonder whether the level of privacy is being breached by any model. Yeah, like, so one thing that you need to notice is that there are a lot of deep fakes that are coming around. If you have noticed, so there are a lot of actresses videos that are being morphed, and a lot of other bad things are actually happening here. So whenever these models are, one thing that is important to understand in the perspective of AI safety is that, so whenever these models are created, while creation, they are not worried about, at least from what I understand, while creation of these models, these are not very much worried about the safety. Safety comes at the last layer, right? Whoever can fine tune or maybe uncensor a model will be able to generate bad inputs, bad outputs. Okay, check out something. It's still normal than budget. It's interesting. Few days in your life. Okay. How to connect to LLMs to internet. LLMs to internet. So there are a lot of options where you can connect, but I think I can take this question at last because it doesn't fit in our particular discussion. I can take this question at last. So I think one day everyone will be allowed to generate their own movie. Of course, that will happen. Okay, if there is someone who is not unmuted, I can do the job for you. I'll just unmute them. Okay, they're already unmuted. Great. Okay, but okay, I think Karan Malhotra, you have a question, so go ahead.
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to know, you mentioned that you might talk about it briefly around AI safety, and if you had any thoughts on the new European AI Act that has just come out and implementation of that, and maybe the impact of that on the Indian AI ecosystem.
Sure, I think I have a last 2-3 slides dedicated for AI safety, so we'll answer this question there. Okay, let me go to the next one. So now let me just quickly cover the audio, music, and multimodal part, and then we can open the floor for questions. So I'll have 2-3 demos here as well. So audio models, right? Audio models. Whenever you think about audio models is not just about talking something, right? There are different ways of audio models as well. So there are some models which convert text to speech. So you give them a paragraph, and then it will convert into a voice. That is text to speech model. Speech to text model is I'm speaking right now, and you are getting a live transcription. That is an STT model. STS model is speech to speech model. Let's say I give a speech as an input. Let's say I have a habit of saying so, or maybe I don't probably say that more now, but there are few words that I say a lot while presenting. What I can do is I can put this speech as an input, and I can train the model in such a way that the resulting speech would remove all the stop words or something like that. So this is one speech to speech model. Voice cloning is something that is interesting. So you can upload a clip of you speaking, and you can get a clone of your own voice where you can, like, I can read a particular paragraph with that clone voice. I can ask it to read something else. You can generate music with audio models. So audio models is not just the reason I'm wanting to cover this is that whenever someone says audio models, it's not just about speaking something aloud. There are different types of it, right? And audio editing is one other thing that is very huge. So one demo that I wanted to show here is AudioBox. AudioBox was released by Meta again. And I did not check whether it is open source or what the license is, but for now it is available for you to use, or maybe try it for free on their website. So I'll just go to AudioBox and maybe just show a quick demo of what it does, and then we'll come back to this. Okay, great. Okay, I'm assuming everyone was able to hear that, right? So was everyone able to hear that, or maybe did everyone pay attention to what was happening here?
Actually, the audio didn't come through here.
Okay, audio didn't come through. Okay, let me just play it again. And if it is not playing, just give me a heads up. It is not playing.
No, there's no audio.
No,
yet.
we are not able to hear, Satvik.
The audio is not correct.
No, it is not.
Okay, let me just open a YouTube video, audio box demo, meta.
It is a way you're sharing. You have to share it along with audio, maybe. It's not about the app, it's about how you're sharing in Zoom.
I think I didn't do any specific things here. Okay. It's Feb 2020. Still not audible?
Oh,
No,
possibly what we can do, I mean, if you can just share that link, we'll just click on it and listen to it at our own hands.
Yeah, I think that should be great, but it will be diverting. So I'll share the link, but okay, I'll just share the link. Maybe you guys can see it. So maybe, yeah, like you can take 2-3 minutes and come back. I'll start speaking again at 12:50. So you can just open the link that I've sent in the chat and you can just put on the sound and see what is happening. And you remember to click unmute button on the left hand side bottom so that you can hear what is happening.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Also, Satvik, I think if you click on it, it plays. By default, it doesn't play. So if you click there, I think it plays the video. I mean, plays the audio.
Okay, I think, yeah, this is what is possible with AI, right? So you can you can take an audio and you can just do as much as you can. Like you can add more voices, you can edit it, you can do bunch of different stuff with it. I hope I'm audible, right?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. So let me just proceed. Given the time, I'll just show 2-3 demos and then we'll open the floor for discussion. So yeah, like players you can look out for is that 11 Labs is one such company which actually leads in TTS, which is text to speech. PlayHT is also similar thing. Gwen Audio is something that was released by Alibaba. It's an open source model which you can try. Seamless 40 is again by Meta. So they claim that they support 1400 languages, so which is very huge. So whenever I can, I'll probably try to see how well it speaks Indian languages. So this is Seamless 40 is released by Meta, which will do bunch of things. Instead of having a different model for TTS, different model for STS or maybe STT or something, Seamless 40 will have all models embedded in a single thing. That is the speciality of this. Whisper is released by OpenAI, which is again a speech to text model. This is not text to speech, this is speech to text model. Suno AI is also a startup, open source startup, which is doing great work in music generation space. So I'll share a demo of Suno AI, where you can generate music for free. So maybe I can just show Suno AI's. So this is the Suno AI website. Let me just refresh it again. So, okay, I can just scroll and let me know if people are able to hear it, okay?
Yes, Harp, we can stop sharing and reshare with the sound, then it will come.
For the YouTube video, I didn't do anything like that. It actually worked
I mean,
fine.
at that time as well, it did not come during YouTube.
Oh, for the YouTube video, you didn't see the sound?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay, I think maybe I'll just share the link in the interest of time. So like you guys can listen to later. It's just suno.ai. You can visit the part later. So you can just listen to music that is being created on the go. Okay, so let me just cover the other parts as well. So again, predictions for this thing, we'll have a real-time TTS, or real-time TTS in the sense that if I'm speaking to you in, let's say, English, it will be live translated to, let's say, Telugu to the other person who's opposite. And if that person is speaking in Spanish, it will be live translated to, let's say, English to me. So uh, real-time TTS is already available, but I think it will be more popular and more widely available. And with respect to spatial and 3D audio, I think a lot of other interesting things can happen. And one general trend is models will become smaller, faster, cheaper, and better. Okay, this is an interesting part. So now we are this is probably the last thing that I'll cover today. So today we'll talk about, like, we have seen. Yeah.
Satvik, in the earlier slide, you mentioned about TTS and STS.
Mhm.
And ST. What is STT?
Speech to text.
Sorry, STS.
Speech to speech.
Oh, okay.
So you let's say you taken my voice and then convert into, let's say, Salman Khan's voice. So speech is being converted into a speech.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, so let me go to multimodal models. So now, till now, we have seen image generation model, audio model, text model, so on and so forth. Just mix them all together, you will get multimodal models, right? So here, multimodal is nothing but the models that can listen, speak, chat, uh, and do many other things. So one speciality of this thing, they can process, integrate info from multiple modes. So they can see video and understand video, and they can talk to you, they can listen to you, they can do bunch of things. The people were like the Gemini video that people have shown was a full-blown example of this thing, right? Full-blown example of multimodal capabilities, which was not true, right? So it didn't actually see the video and directly say something, but multimodal is a model that will completely integrate all the modalities and it will do the job. And one thing is that it is ideal for artificial general intelligence. So imagine a human being, right? So if we want like AI to be as intelligent as human, it should have all the capabilities as the human, right? As a human, I'm able to see, I'm able to speak, I'm able to understand, analyze, do a bunch of different things. So I wouldn't be the same human if my capability was just to speak, right? So I should also be able to listen, I should also be able to see, and a lot of other things. So a good multimodal model will be the ideal use case for a multimodal model is to develop AGI. So if you release a humanoid somewhere, so if it is equipped with a multimodal model, it can sense the surroundings, it can take information from multiple modes, and then it can do the job for us. And I have created one application using GPT for like GPT-4 Vision, which is a multimodal. I'll just show the demo of what I have done. Okay. So this is a like, let's say my main point was, let's say a school teacher has to do a lot of homework checking, right? So which is a lot of problem. So let's say if I'm a student, I have solved a certain problem and I want to check if my answer is correct or not. So what I can do is I can just okay, I can just go and upload a problem. So this is the solution, right? This is the question in my homework, let's say, and this is the solution that I've written. And I've deliberately created a wrong answer here, and I've uploaded it to GPT-4 vision model, and I'll ask it to correct, like see if it is correct or not. So it is actually telling that my answer is actually, it should ideally be 29. So it is telling that answer is incorrect, and here is the correct solution. So this is the multimodal capability, right? It cannot just take in a text and then give a text input. I'm uploading an image here. I'm uploading an image. This means that a model is able to see something, infer information, think about it logically, and give me a text output. So I can go wild with this also. I can add a voice modality to this as well. So it can explain me, Satvik, you have in this particular solution, this step is not correct. You should have ideally done this, karke, right? So this is the power of multimodal models, that you're not here. Image model is involved, so it's able to see, it's able to infer, and then it's able to give text. So we might also have models where it can see, listen, speak everything at a time. So we are closely getting there, and my prediction for this is that going forward in the next year, we will have good number of multimodal models that we can play around with. So one thing that there are some multimodal models that are already available on the market today. So which are GPT-4 Vision. So the app that I've created here is created using GPT-4 Vision. So there is a model by Google Gemini. They claim that it is a multimodal model. I believe that it is a multimodal model, but how capable it is, something to be checked. And the next three are the open source models. These are small models, 7B models. One great thing is that this can fit in your computer. Without internet, it can run, right? So even with the Copilot application that I was telling, so if there was a model like Lava, which is fitted into my computer without internet, it can see my screen and answer some questions. Let's say if I'm uploading a new software and I get an error, right? Instead of copy pasting the error, I can allow my Copilot to see the screen. So it can read the error itself and give me a solution. If I give it a power to operate the machine as well, it will see the error, it will take the next steps, and it will do everything for me. So multimodal models are also very essential for developing very efficient copilots, AGI, everything. So we like text models is a very good start. But if we are going towards the AGI journey, and again, even I'm not a very big fan of AGI word, because there is no fixed definition for artificial general intelligence. But I just roughly throw around this word to mean that a model that can, a multimodal model, a highly capable multimodal model is AGI for me, in my opinion. You can have your own definitions, and like if you ask 10 people, everyone will give their own definition, right? So this is what is about multimodal models. Okay, now I'll go to the AI safety part. So AI safety and the generative AI discussion is something more of free flowing. So maybe till this part, till all the models or different modalities that we have covered, if there are any questions, we can take that. And then we can reserve like next 5-10 minutes for AI safety and other discussion. Any questions, anyone?
Satvik,
And
one. So is it possible to fine-tune LLM model and give the huge raw context the same LLM model?
Yeah, it's fine tuning is something that is possible today. Yes.
Okay.
Satvik, do you have any thoughts around use of these models for content in the metaverse? I mean, in virtual worlds, are any of these models being used for content generation in those spaces?
Yeah, I think the reason why Meta or Facebook is doubling down on these AI models is exactly for metaverse, right? So let's say I'm here right now physically talking in this call. So my AI avatar can be in a metaverse doing some other discussion with someone. Let's say my Meta or metaverse avatar can interact with your metaverse avatar in some other, let's say, parallel universe or in a particular metaverse. So the reason why like my guess is that the reason why like Facebook is very much into AI is because it will be very significant in terms of content generation or maybe the capabilities for metaverse, sorry. Yeah. Okay, let's just cover the discussion about this thing. Okay, some like I have written some very rudimentary points here, but if we were to talk about dangers of AI, we could probably spend the entire 2 hours on it. But I'll just give you some examples of real life examples of dangers of AI that have happened already, and we can see how that works, right? So first is identity theft, deep fakes, and all. So you all have seen many different cases where there are deep fakes of some celebrities or a known person, and there was some website uh, based out of Bangladesh. So there is some country that is going to elections, and there is a company which is offering deep fakes for $50 for political opponents. Let's say if you want to create a bad deep fake video of your political opponent, you can pay them $50 and make them generate a 30-second clip of your political opponent doing something wrong, right? So this is the real thing that is happening, and going forward, even with Indian elections also, Indian elections are coming in 2024. If I'm not wrong, US is also going to elections next year. So you like deep fakes, identity theft or something are a real threat to many systems that we have established over time. So we humans have established like systems like democracy, capitalism, a lot of things. But with AI, everything will fundamentally change. So we will not be able to distinguish what is real and what is wrong. So one thing is that you need to like even going not just for the voting season or something, but generally also you need to be very aware. If there is some video coming out, don't react. First think whether it could be a deep fake or not. And going forward, deep fakes will be very, very good, which humans will not be able to decipher whether it is AI or real, right? So hateful speech and harmful content, again, the same thing as I've mentioned, there are some uncensored models that are available already, or people can fine tune a model to be uncensored. It can generate hate speech, very harmful content also. It can generate content which will help criminals to leverage it a lot more. Right? They can use it to develop some drugs, some hateful speech for social media, so on and so forth. And cybersecurity threats, something is that, so if you want to plan, if you want to create some virus or something, currently a human has to create a virus and then have to propagate it. Now I can give an AI agent a goal to generate a virus and spread it across the world. So it will learn itself how to write the code, it will deploy it, and it will, whoever tries to shut it down, it will become more powerful. So again, I'm giving very dystopian cases in this particular slide, but to be honest, these are not something that are out of reality, like out of the realm of possibility, right? So whatever things that I'm telling are some things that are already happening in some way or form, and going forward, as these systems get more stronger, more cheaper, more faster, it will be very good for good people who are doing good things. At the same time, bad actors can also leverage this technology in multiple different bad ways. So the reason, one of the reasons why I'm conducting these sessions regularly is also to spread awareness about AI, right? So AI, as with many other technologies that have come before us, let's say like Web3 or something, it didn't really change the life of an average Joe, right? So it didn't change my life, to be honest. So sure, I lost some money in Bitcoin, but otherwise it didn't change my life. So, but AI is something that is going to change a lot of things. It will change the way you work, the way you interact with the online world, the way you interact with other people. Everything will change. So it is very important for people to understand the AI systems in their vicinity and how they react. And one other thing is the job crisis. So yeah, like there is no debate about people are going to lose their jobs due to AI, because AI is a technology which is creative in itself, right? So it will surely take away some jobs, but one thing is that the once the jobs are being laid off, the new jobs that will come in will not be distributed equally around the world. Let's say if people are losing job in USA, right? They will find some other jobs easily, right? But let's say you go to some places in Bangladesh, Pakistan, or somewhere where the entire cities depend on a particular menial job, right? So they are going to lose their jobs, and there will not be a quick remedial solution. So there will be a lot of uh, uh, inequality in terms of job distribution. Jobs will Everyone will lose jobs, so the people who are doing menial work or maybe like road jobs will lose their job first. And if you are in a like backward or middle economy countries, it will be very difficult for you to get jobs sooner or later. So like one thing, if people are thinking to build something in the space, is to how to reallocate the workforce to something else meaningful, right? So if there are 1,000 people who are out of their jobs today, so can we give them some meaningful jobs that will be protected from AI, which will also give them livelihood? So that is something that people can ponder about. And one thing that I'm most interested or most worried about is this particular point, which is the last one. So your AI will know more about you. So as I mentioned that your phone will come embedded with AI. So your phone will have an LLM installed in it. It will know everything that you are going through. So it will know every message, it will read every email, it will listen to every conversation, and it will know you more than yourself. So if let's say if Google is controlling the LLM that you are using on your phone, and if they want to sell you something, they might probably bombard you with some content that will make you feel bad about something and make you an impulse purchase or something, right? So that is a problem with the system. If there is a like AI will be a system that will understand you more than yourself, and if it is controlled by someone else, then you are doomed, right? So whenever interacting with AI systems, at least for now, before the data privacy and before all these things get figured out, I would strongly recommend people not to use these AI chatbots for any personal or intimate purposes, right? So, like, just to make sure that AI does not have the entire data of yourself, or I don't know how to protect exactly, but this is the danger that we'll have. So we'll reach a point very soon, maybe next year or maybe a year later, where we will have AIs which will understand, like, there will be an AI which will understand you more than yourself. And if it is controlled by someone else, then it will be a very big problem. Okay, so I'll just cover this slide also, and then I'll end the session. Okay, so one thing is that one thing, like having experimented in generative AI for the last 1 year, most of the models that I'm seeing are coming from US. China really picked it up, like really picked it up in the last 5-6 months, and there are probably more models coming out of China than US today. And they're not just a fine-tuned version of some GPT model or a Mistral model. They are creating some base models, base foundation models from scratch and open sourcing it. So imagine the amount of models that they are closed source and they are developing, right? So China is also leading in this race, and Europe, I would not say the entire European region is doing this, but startups like Hugging Face, Mistral, or something, they are also leading in this AI space. So most models that we are using today are coming from other countries or are coming from other cultures. So we are like India is around like 1.4 billion people, and if we keep relying on models that are being trained on Western data, so that will be catastrophic. So just to give one example, I was using a multimodal model to upload a picture of a photo and a picture of a food, and it will give you a recipe for it, right? So this was the model that I developed. So it was able to identify the picture of burger. It was able to identify picture of pasta. But when I uploaded a picture of gulab jamun, it didn't identify it, right? So because that model that I was using primarily came from China, and they didn't probably train it on Indian data, obviously, right? So here, when we don't train our models on our data sets, there is a danger that, like, if there are no good models for, let's say, Tamil or Telugu or even Gujarati or something, so imagine the amount of people who will be left out in this AI. So there is a very powerful AI which can be in your phone, but you can't speak to it, you can't interact with it. So there is a lot of like we need to like we in India need to really step up the generative AI scene here, in terms of not just fine tuning models or not just creating some wrapper startups or something. We need to create some foundational models that should emerge primarily, like that should be primarily trained on Indian languages, and should use Indian data sets. And to be honest, there are no good data sets in India, right? So there are no good data sets, let's say, for uh, other Indian languages except for Hindi, I guess. Even Hindi is sparse, right? So this is one trend that you will need to think about, is that uh, we, like, the more and more we rely on the models that are coming from other parts of the world, the less and less will be, like, we will be connected with our own culture. So one I'll maybe end this session with one particular thought of mine, is that, let's say, previously people used to say, if you want to forget a particular, like, if you want people to forget about a particular culture or something, just erase the text from the history books, right? So just erase the text from history books. People after a few generations will forget about them. So here, what will happen is, if you want a generation to forget about something, you just erase their data set from the pre-training of the model. So as long as AI does not know about some Indian culture, so people will not learn about it. So this is something that is very important, that we need to focus more on creating base models from India. I think there are some good steps that are coming, maybe just in the last few weeks. Ola has launched their own AI vertical called Krutrim just yesterday or day before. And there is a startup called Servam AI, which raised $41 million in the last week. So there are some good signs that are happening in the Indian generative AI space. But I think we should be on par with China or US, uh, given the number of people that we have in our country. Not only that, let's say if you take US or China, they are more or less single language. US speaks English and China speaks Mandarin, right? In India, there are like hundreds of languages. There are like 30, 40 main languages. So we need to have multiple, like, we need to put a lot more effort to put all those cultures, all those languages onto the AI. And it is relatively easy for other countries to do, because they have monoculture and mono language, single languages. It will be a lot difficult for India, and if we don't step up right now, we will find ourselves in a situation where we which will be very bad that way. So, but yeah, there are some positive signs emerging from this. But I'm sure, like, something great will come out of India in the next 2024 year. So yeah, I think with this I'll end the session. I'll take questions now, but before that, if you can give us 2 minutes, you can just connect with me on LinkedIn. You can connect with Nihal on LinkedIn. So these are our pages, and I'll send the WhatsApp link for the Build Fast with AI group. You can do it. And I recently started ranting on Twitter just few days back, so you can follow me on Twitter as well, so to get some latest updates. And if there is anything else that you want to get in touch with, you can use any of the channels: WhatsApp, LinkedIn, Twitter, or even my mail. So yeah, I think with this thing, I'll end the session today, and take any questions that you guys might have.
So regarding that job loss thing, right? One thing that you have to kind of keep in mind, while Sam Altman has been so busy with OpenAI and everything that is happening there, you would think that that is such an important part of it, and he'd focus all his energy there. But he is equally focused on WorldCoin, which is this whole thing about, if in case people are going to lose their jobs, if in case AI it's so good that you cannot tell the difference between human and machine. He's actually investing so much time and effort into building out WorldCoin and identifying that someone is actually human by using their retinal scans, right?
Yeah,
We have to
orb or
really
something.
think that little orb which actually scans the retina and then gives like free
So what's
cryptocurrency.
more dystopian than
Exactly. But
yeah.
imagine what he knows about AI being at the cutting edge of whatever OpenAI is doing, that he is actually spending so much more time building for an alternate reality, right? So something for us to also keep in mind. There are obviously he's 5 years, 6 years ahead of us, and he's planning for that.
True. Okay, I think there are too many messages on chat, so let me just take questions one by one. Okay, before that, let me just send the link to the WhatsApp group so that everyone is. And I also have a feedback form link if you guys want to. So it will really help if you can just like send me a few words about how you like the session or dislike the session in any way. So that will be helpful. So yeah, you can join the WhatsApp link, and if you feel like you can just fill the feedback form and let me know some things. Or maybe we'll also send out a mail after this call with the resources that were used in the call, and you can feel free to leave a feedback on Luma or this form or anything else. So yeah, but just let us know however you felt about things. Okay, so there are a lot of okay, I think there were a lot of comments here, but yeah, I'm opening up the floor. Like if there are any questions, you guys can feel free to uh, uh, like unmute yourself and ask. Meanwhile, like as you are in the call, just join the WhatsApp group, send a LinkedIn request to me and Nihal, and follow me on Twitter. And you can note my email ID or up to you. Just connect with us on online so that you know what we guys are up to. Meanwhile, and yeah, like if anyone has questions, they can shoot out. I think people are all scared with the dystopian future that I've showed in the last three slides that they're left speechless.
So, okay, I think if there are no more questions, then we can wind up. We're just slightly over time, but this really was an excellent session, Satvik. Thank you so much for putting this together and
Yeah,
for going into all of these details.
yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us
So
today.
I think Nihal, what we
Yeah,
can do is like me, Nihal can stay for like 5-10 minutes. If people want
sure.
to have a separate chat, they can have it. People who want to leave can leave the call, but we are on the call. If you have any questions or anything that you want to inquire from us, we are on the call for the next 5 minutes.
Sure,
Hey,
sure. No, that's a good idea.
one quick thing regarding the deepfake problem statement that you were referring to. Have you seen any efforts in terms of validation systems being brought in? There was one comment by Google where they said in the images they will have some way of identifying the images that are generated by AI and have a unique code for it. But from a video industry and all, they have DRMs and all to protect the videos and all that, right? Have you seen anything coming up on that front currently for all the AI generated content or images for that matter?
Yeah, I think I have. To be honest, I didn't experience those myself. But there has been a lot of work that is being done on AI watermarking, right? So if a particular text is being generated using AI, people should know that it's being generated by AI. There is an image or a video or something. People should know that it is being generated by AI somehow. So many people are like, even with Stability AI, if you use their platform, you see a like watermark that it is generated from Stability AI, which can be easily removed using their own tool otherwise. But these are very naive efforts. But I see there are few research companies who are doing a lot of work in this in terms of mechanistic interpretability, uh, a few other very complex techniques that actually